Welcome back, DCers. There's a little review assignment in Delta Math that you'll want to be working on for those of you that were in DC. And we also did 8.4, but we're going to do it again today anyway because it's sort of a review assignment for the rest of us too. So we already did this page, 8.4 composite shapes. We're going to turn the page though and do the back side. So turn it over. And we're here on 8.5 composite perimeter and area. So we have a bunch of formulas that we want to have in a handy spot, and I know they're all on the first page of your notes, but it's really just a good idea to have them and also just to remember them, to write them down. So the area of a rectangle or parallelogram, the formula for area is what? Base times height. Base times height. Very simple. What about area of a triangle? Yeah, the area is 1/2 base times height. We also have a trapezoid, T-R-A-P-E-Z-O-I-D. The trapezoid has an area, that's a complicated one. What's that? Base 1 plus base 2. Very good. 1/2 the height times base 1 plus base 2. And those parentheses around those bases are the super important part there. So that's really good. Let's see. The other thing we want to make sure we know is the area of a circle. What's the formula for area of a circle? Very good. Pi times radius squared. So those are all the areas that we want to know. And a composite shape, all it is a bunch of areas added up. And so we just use our formulas and then add them all together. Today we're going to talk about composite areas and composite perimeters. So I do want to remind you also what circumference is. C-U-M-F-E-R-E-N-C-E. Okay, circumference is like the perimeter of a circle. Do you remember the, oh, sorry, right here. Circumference is like the perimeter of a circle. It's the outside of a circle. Do you remember the formula for circumference of a circle? 2 times pi times r. Very good. 2 times pi times radius. Okay. So, and perimeter is just all the edges added up. All edges. I'm just going to write that there. All the edges. So today what we're doing is we're going to do some composite areas and we're going to do some composite perimeters. And these are pretty complicated looking. And so they are a little bit challenging, but the ones in Delta Math are not terrible. This number 11 is some craziness going on here. Let's see. What shapes do you see here in this little figure? Trapezoid? I do see a trapezoid right up top here. Imagine connecting that corner to corner. Then I see a trapezoid, and then what's this weird slanty shape at the bottom? Parallelogram, yeah. So what we did last week on Friday, for those of you that weren't here, we did the areas already, so they have a little bit of a head start. But what we're going to do is we're going to put a number 1 and a number 2 as in our first and second shapes. And if we want to find a composite area, we just have to find the area of each. So to find the area of shape number 1, so shape number 1 is a trapezoid. And I'm going to go to my trapezoid formula, which is 1/2 times the height times base 1 plus base 2. So when I look here, this is pretty challenging. I need to know the height of this trapezoid. And remember, heights have to be perpendicular. So I need this height right here. How tall is that trapezoid? 12.5. How'd you get 12.5? Yeah, the height of the parallelogram down here is 4, and we know the total height is 16.5. So 16.5 minus the 4 is 12.5, and that's the height of our trapezoid there. So 12.5 is the height, and then we need base 1 plus base 2. What's the length of this base here? It is 23, yeah. A parallelogram, the opposite sides are the same length. So if the bottom of the parallelogram is 23, the top of the parallelogram is also 23. So base 1 is 23 and base 2 is 7. Do you guys have calculators? I don't have a calculator. Can you please plug that in so that you can tell me the answer? 1/2 times 12.5. Don't forget the parentheses on 23 plus 7. 187.5. I think is correct. 187.5. So that's the area of our trapezoid. And then we also need the area of our second figure, which is just a parallelogram. That is just base times height. And the base is 23, and the height is 4. And 23 times 4 is 94? 92? 92. And if I want the total area, all I have to do is add the two individual areas together. So 187.5 plus 92, and that gives me 279.5, and we're talking square feet. So area 1 plus area 2 added together. Okay. I'm going to keep on the area track just because it's just much easier to keep focused on one particular thing. So let's look down at number 12. What two shapes do we have in number 12? Triangle and semicircle. Very good. Semicircle. All right, so our first shape I'm going to do is a triangle. What's the formula for the area of a triangle? 1/2 base times height. So 1/2, what's our base and what's our height of our triangle? Yeah, right here is our right angle. Remember, base and height are always perpendicular to each other. So we have a base and a height of 9. Those are the two dimensions that are perpendicular. So 12 times 9. That's going to be 6 times 9 is 54. All right, and then I have area 2. Our second area is this semicircle. What's the formula for the area of a whole circle? Pi radius squared, good. But we don't have a whole circle. We only have half of it. So we're just going to pop a 1/2 in front. 1/2 times pi times radius squared. I need to know my radius here. What is my radius?
7.5.
So how'd you get 7.5?
Divided by 2.
15 divided by 2. Good. So 7.5 needs to be squared. Pi times radius squared. I need some calculator fingers for that one. 1/2 times pi, 49 times 3, like 150, and have that 70-something, 80-something. 88.4, thank you. 88.4. And then we're going to add them up. So we're going to add our two areas up. So 54 plus 88.4 becomes, thank you, 142.4. And this is millimeters being squared. Little millimeter squares. Okay. Number 13. And then we did the easy part. The easy part is the perimeter. So area, what shapes do you see in this figure? Two semicircles, a triangle, and a rectangle. Okay. So let's see. If I have two semicircles, if I have two half circles, what is that really? Just one whole circle. So I'm going to call that area 1 is just a whole circle. And then area 2 is going to be our triangle, and area 3 is going to be our rectangle. So we have a couple of semicircles. That's one whole circle. What's the formula for area of a circle? Pi radius squared. Our radius is what? 6. Yes, our radius is 6. This whole length that has the 12 on it, that's the diameter. We want half of that, so our radius is 6. So pi times radius squared, what is that, 100 and something? 113.1. Perfect, thank you. So area of a whole circle. Then we have this triangle in the middle. The formula is, so this is our second figure, it is 1/2 base times height. What is the height of this triangle? 16 minus 7.1. Very good. We've already got 7.1 over here used up, so we want to do 16 minus 7.1. That gives me 8.9. All right, so that height, so 1/2, the base is 16, and the height is 8.9. Very good. All right, again, let's see, half 16 is 8. 8 times 8.9, 8 times 54, 6.
It's not 16, it's 12.
No, so the 12 is the what I would call the slant height of this. The 12 is actually the diameter of the circle. My height is this perpendicular height right here, and the base is the bottom of the triangle, because those are the two things that are perpendicular. Does that make sense to you? Yeah? Okay. All right, so 1/2 times 16 times 8.9 is 71.2. Very good. And then area 3, just a rectangle. That is just base times height. And again, base times height have to be perpendicular to each other. So that's going to be 16 times 7.1, which is 113.6. Thank you. And then the total area is all 3 areas added together. And if I add all 3 areas up, I'm going to get 297.9. Excellent. And these are inches being squared. So area uses your area formulas. Just add them up. Any questions on adding up areas? Okay. So perimeter is just all the edges added together. And so that's usually pretty easy, but it does can be a little bit confusing. So in this figure, in number 11, back to the perimeter spot here, I want to add up all these edges, and it's just the outer edges, so we have to be a little bit careful because there's extra lines in there. We don't want to confuse ourselves. The perimeter is just the outside edges, okay? And we have some tick marks here. Here's a single tick mark right here. What's that measure? 15, yeah. So we have a 15 over here and a 15. That's what those tick marks mean. Here we have 9 with a double tick mark, and over here another double tick mark is also 9. So the perimeter on number 11, I'm going to start with a 7. I have a 7 plus, I have 2 15s, I have 2 9s, and then I have a 23. And if I add those together, then I would get 78 feet. So when they're all nice straight edges, that's really, really easy. But we do have some other things to contend with. So on number 12, I have a straight edge and another straight edge. But then I have part of a circle. And so when I have a portion of a circle, I have to think about the circumference formula. So this rounded portion has to do with part of the circumference. So I have to be very careful. So my perimeter, I have 12 plus 9 for the yellow pieces. But then I have this green portion. How much of the circumference is that? It's half. Yeah, so I'm going to add half of my circumference, which is 2 times pi times the radius. And what's the radius? 7.5. Good. So this is the half of the circumference. That makes up the green portion of that figure. And the 12 and the 9 makes up the yellow portion. Ladies, does anyone have any questions on that? What happens when I take half of 2? It's just 1. That cancels each other out, so you don't really need it. All right, so what do you get when you add this, put this in your calculator? That's the 7.5. So that part is 23.6 plus this. Yeah, 44.6 should be your answer here. And this is just millimeters. So in case you're curious, this was 23.6, that green portion. All right, let's look at the last one, number 13. Again, we're just looking at edges. So for perimeter, I have my outside edges here. These are the nice straight edges. But then I have some, it looks like a frog. It's so cute. Yeah, it could be a piece of bread, yeah. All right, so I have my yellow edges. Well, those are easy. So the yellow would be 7.1 plus 16 plus 7.1. So those are my 3 yellow edges. And then, what's the green stuff? Circumference. The edges of a circle. We have 2 semicircles. Well, 2 semicircles is just one whole circle. And so that's just going to be the circumference of a whole circle, which is 2 times pi times my radius, which was 6. So there's the green portion, and you can just type that whole thing in. So 2 times pi times 6 is 37.7. That's true. And then add in your yellow stuff. Yeah, good. So you should get 67.9 inches in your calculator. So today you're doing area and perimeter. So keep these formulas handy. Keep them in front of you. Make sure you read carefully. Make sure you know, are they asking for area? In which case you need to use your area formulas. Or if they're doing perimeter, you're just adding edges or circumference, okay? So you just have to read carefully. Do you guys have any questions for me? Okay. 19, that's